So my name is Brook Johnson, and I run Yahara Chocolate here. And I'm going to be talking today about chocolate and tea. So you can see I have my tea set up here. Because originally, when I started doing chocolate, I was going to be Yahara Chocolate and tea. But the tea sort of had a slow start, so it just is Yahara Chocolate right now. But chocolate and tea are two of my very favorite things. My shop has been open here for now 2.5 years, and one of the unique things about my shop is that I focus exclusively on chocolate bars. I don't sell any chocolate candies, I don't sell anything like that, so I curate an amazing, cool selection of chocolate bars. And when people come in, they say, oh, what can we pair our chocolate with? And I say, well, if you have a really good chocolate bar, you don't need to pair it with anything because you have a really good chocolate bar, right? But people do like to pair stuff with other things. And of course, the number one request is wine. But I tell people the number one way I like to enjoy my chocolate is with tea. So you can see I have tea here in front of me. And I will give you a little bit of time to brew your tea at home if you're going to brew some tea, if you have some chocolate bars. Some of the ones that I'm going to be talking about today are one of my all-time favorites, the Michael Cluzel Noir Infini 99. So if you have one of those at home, or one of the brand new from Schulen's is their 98% from Ghana, a really fun one. So the darker the better, I always think, when pairing chocolate and tea. I also have an 85% from WM Chocolate here in Madison from Nicaragua, Nicaraguan beans. And I have an 85% from Pump Street with Ecuadorian beans. So like I said, the darker the better I like to do this with, but if you have anything at home, go ahead and do anything with what you have at home. All right, and what do I have before me here? I have a couple teacups, I have my teapot, and you can see to brew my loose leaf tea, which I have here before me. Now the loose leaf tea that I have before me is from Rishi Tea. It's this Baozhang. I consider it my nice house oolong tea. I love oolong teas for pairing with chocolate. All right, so I don't know if everyone has had a chance to brew their tea at home and get ready. So I have my hot water already hot here, set to 200 degrees. If you don't have one of these kettles at home, of course you can do it on the stovetop. You can watch the bubbles like the ancient Chinese would do. You have your shrimp eyes, then you have your frog eyes, then you have your fish eyes, then you have your string of pearls. String of pearls about, what, 195, 200 degrees? That's about where you want to go. That's where you want to stop your water before you get to a full boil, because you don't want to overboil it. And then you're going to measure out maybe 5 to 10 grams of your loose leaf tea. And so we'll go ahead and add that to my teapot in here. So you can see teapot, get the loose leaf tea in there. Then I'll pour a little bit of my tea, a little bit of my hot water. And now we'll let it steep. And while it's steeping, I'm just going to go ahead and start with my favorite. This has been my longtime favorite. It doesn't necessarily fit in with what I stock with my chocolate bars anymore because it is not a single origin bar. I like to do the single origin bars like my other three are. But this has just been my long time favorite. So we'll go ahead and open up one of these. And again, this is the Michael Cluzel Noir Infini. Let me turn my teapot off. So once your water is hot, traditionally you would just let it then slowly cool as your tea would brew. And of course I'm talking, so I'm not paying full attention to my tea, which is what I would normally like to do. So here I have my little piece here. So that's probably good enough for my first steeping. So you can see this style teapot doesn't have a handle. You hold it up by the rim. The bulb down here is really going to be hot. And then you pour it into your pitcher here. And the pitcher will mix the tea because the loose leaf tea will stratify a little bit as it steeps. All right, so we have it there. The other thing that it does is it cools down. I know traditionally you would pre-warm all your pots, get rid of some of that cold chi, but I like to do my first pot cold just to keep the first brew from being really too hot. So we'll go ahead and pour it in here. It's going to be sort of hard to see the color of the tea because of how we are, but we can sort of hold it up there. You can sort of see the color of our Baozhang oolong tea. Now I have my piece of chocolate here. One of the reasons why I like to pair tea and chocolate is if we go through the steps of really enjoying a fine piece of chocolate is, number one, your mouth can't be cold. So no cold water, no cold beverages, no sodas, no anything like that, because a lot of people know or don't know that a cold mouth makes any chocolate taste like plastic. And I like to tell people, when was the last time you had really good chocolate chips in ice cream? Right? When the chocolate chip is cold, it just doesn't taste like anything. You have to let it warm up. You have to collect them, right? It takes a while for that chocolate to warm up and actually taste good. So tea keeps your mouth warm. The other thing is that it often has lighter flavors, so I'm not going to stick with the really strong herbal teas or anything like that. It often has a lighter flavor. And two, it almost dilutes a really dark chocolate. It volatilizes some of those organics. It brings them up into your nose. It just really lets you enjoy chocolate in a different way. It's not making your chocolate better. It's not making your tea better, but it's just creating a completely different experience. And so this is really kind of a big piece. So I'll break it down, So I tell people, this is about how much I use, an 80th of a bar. Of course, last time I sold one of these, the Noir Infini, the guy came in and said, I ate that in a day. I'm like, come on. All right, so you have a little bit. I like to put it on my tongue, let it sit there, then take a little bit of your tea. Right, and be still for a little bit. And let the tea melt some of the chocolate, bring that warmth down your throat. And then what's sort of fun is you have a little bit of your chocolate that got warm and melted off. Then you have a little bit of coolness left over at the end. And so I still have a little bit of my piece left, so I'll get a little bit more tea. And in this day and age, when we're trying to slow down a little bit, of course, slowing down maybe a little bit more than we intended as we're all stuck at home, it's just a way to enjoy a wholly really big chocolate bar in really, really small amounts. And pairing that chocolate and tea is just something that I really, really love. And I am trying to look at the comments as people join and as people, so if you have any questions, feel free to throw them out there. I'm happy to answer questions at any point in time. And so I still have a little bit more of my tea. All right, pretty good. And of course, I had enough brewed here for two, even though it's just me. So I'll pour my second cup there. And then, since we're dealing with a high quality loose leaf tea, I can go ahead and take my water and I can brew it again. Which is so nice about having a high quality loose leaf tea. And so you can see, if you can see on the inside there, you can see how I have the strainer set up so that it's going to hold all the loose leaf tea in there. And now another question that may pop to your mind is, yes, I'm also a potter. So I moved down into my shop, as you can see some of the bars around me, behind me, to teach pottery. I was trained, I did pottery I used to go to art fairs, I did pottery for a living. I still do lots of pottery, I still teach lots of pottery, but I like to make a lot of the things that I use every day in my shop, at home, all that sort of stuff. So this is a tea set that I made. And the second steeping, here again as I talk, I don't want to lose my attention. The second steeping will go much faster than the first one because your leaves are already wet, your tea is already warm, your pot's already warm. So we'll go ahead and already get ready to brew this one. Yeah, I wish I had someone here. All right, so I have a question, special tea chocolate combinations. Well, let's go through a little bit of the tea that I sell in my tea pack. So we already talked about the Noir Infini because I like the darker the better. All of these bars that I have, the Schulins, the WM, the Pump Street, are all going to be sort of on the earthy, herbal side of teas. And I just like I like taking a little piece of the earth and tasting it in a very palatable sort of way, which is why I choose these earthy types of chocolates that I like to pair with my tea. Of course, you can absolutely choose any tea, any chocolate combination, but then you have to start dealing with something that's maybe a really fruity tea, like an herbal tea of some sort. And maybe that's not going to pair so well with your chocolate, which is why I really like sticking with the neutral ones. But some of the other ones that I have had in my tea packs, that I have some of these here, is if you really want to start with something that's a little bit lighter for people, the Ritual Peru 75 is really an amazing one to pair with tea. I also like the Costa Rica from French Broad. And before Schulen's came out with their really amazing 98, I liked their blend. Their 85% blend was also a good one. But since you brought it up, I do have a couple other ones here that are what to pair with your tea, maybe in your chocolate. Maybe you don't have time to take your tea on the road. So one of the really fun ones here is from Obolo, from Chile. We have their Earl Grey. It's blended. It's a really fun one. It's a 64%, so it's much sweeter, but it has a little bit of extra cocoa butter added because the tea is actually brewed with the cocoa butter. And that is what makes it a really strong hit of the bergamot, of the orange flavor at first, and then that sort of fades to get you through to the rest of the tea. Or I have the Fruition Harney & Sons tea bar here. And, you know, I haven't tried it, you know, so maybe we'll go ahead and try this one that is going to be on the far extreme of flavors because this is hot and spicy and it has cinnamon in it. But just for fun, since you brought it up, let's go ahead and try it. Again, Fruition, very subtle flavor, or texture, you can't even see the texture on there, but really fun packaging. So let's go ahead and open up this one. So you can see, I don't know if you can see at home, but holy smokes, does it smell really strong. This is much lighter. It's going to be a milk chocolate. So we're going to go ahead and try this. Again, this is still this Baozhang. The Baozhang is what I consider a house tea. If you really want something a little brighter, a little bit fruity, like a ruby oolong would be good. Or if you want something really dark and full of meat, then maybe going with a pu'er tea would be really fun. So those are all other different kinds of teas that you can do. I generally stay away from the herbal teas, but if you do want a green tea, I do have this Jade Cloud, which is what I sometimes will include in my tea tasting packs, which is sort of again a light tea. I'm not going for something super strong because that's hard to generalize when you offer to someone a chocolate to someone. Is that if you have a really strongly flavored chocolate or a really strongly flavored tea, then the pairing isn't quite so straightforward. So that's often why when I create my packs, I stick with a little bit more neutral flavored teas, a little bit more neutral flavored chocolates. But since we brought it up, we'll go ahead and throw this Harney & Sons in. It's a little cool in here because I keep my shop cold while I'm gone. So we'll pour this here. Use my fresh tea here. And the milk chocolate melts really evenly. You really get that hot, spicy cinnamon flavor. Well, with that water melting that one, it's almost like this unbelievable sugar rush, like this rush of flavor because the milk chocolate is melting so quickly. The hot water is melting the chocolate so quickly. It's such a sweet chocolate to begin with, and that water is like amplifying. It really is quite amazing. It's not my thing, honestly. You know, I'm more, the less sugar, the better, 90% or higher. This one at 46%, really on the sweet side of things. But if you want to wow someone, well, there you go. There's a good one. Go ahead with that Harney tea, and that the tea just amplifies that flavor so much. Really fun. Thanks for the suggestion out there. We have another comment. Do I find that different pots and different cups work better for different teas? Generally, I don't specify the pot or the teapot depending on what tea I'm brewing. Now, if you go back into some of the old, more ancient Chinese literature about what teas, or even there would be different kinds of teapots for different sorts of things. Sometimes the insides would be unglazed, so they would build up a patina on the inside, and that would end up changing. So the older the teapot, the more patina was built up, the more valuable it was for brewing your tea. And again, since we have a high quality oolong tea here, we can go ahead and brew it a third time. My water is cooling, the tea is getting less intense, and it's just changing. So I'm brewing that for a third time. And anyway, so like I said, any other questions you have out there? That is sort of what I do. I go through this whole pot of tea. It takes maybe 20 minutes, tea takes a half an hour. You end up going through, even though I'm talking, so I'm not going quite as quickly. You can see on my dark chocolate, I only had one square. From the top row has 3 squares, and I only broke that into 3. So I'd have 12 little squares to do the top row of my Clissel. And so in an entire sitting of tea, I probably wouldn't even use a whole row, and there are 5 rows in there. So it would take, an entire week to go through my chocolate. And again, it's another way to really stop and slow down and enjoy the chocolate that you have. And let me continue on here with a few other of the tea chocolates that I have. So I really love what Fossa has been able to do with their tea chocolates. And here's their very poetically flavored honey oolong, or honey orchid. And from a very similar location, but not quite so pretty, is their duck shit oolong. So anyway, so those are fun. I had those part of my leap day, try them once every 4 years chocolates, kind of fun. All right, so I have a question about a cocoa nibs infusion. And what I find a cocoa nibs infusion, that would be actually making a cocoa tea, and sometimes people do it with the cocoa husks, and sometimes people do it with the cocoa nibs. When I use nibs, I really like them hard and crunchy, and so I add them to granola, I add them to cookies, I add to anything that would have chopped nuts in them. If you brew them first, it really makes them soft, and it almost makes them soft like oats, and you get a really fun infusion. I often will do that more in the summer because then I like to chill it, and I don't actually enjoy a cocoa nib brew or a cocoa husk brew very well warm. I actually prefer that more in the summer chilled. So that's one way to do it, and honestly, I just eat my nibs straight. I often don't brew them into tea, although that is certainly a possibility. All right, so one of the other things that I do at home, or I do at my shop, is I do lots of these pairings, because if you look behind me, you can see a small selection of the chocolate that I carry, and I have about 120, 125 different bars in the shop, and it gets overwhelming. How do people choose what you want to buy when you have that many bars to choose from? So one of the ways I do it is, well, do you have a tea pairing? And so then I say, well, if you're interested in tea, here's some chocolates, try them, tell me what you think, save your wrappers. But like I said in the very beginning, tea pack is not my most popular pack. My most popular pack is, of course, the wine pack, and this is not about a tea and wine sampling. I might have gotten a lot more viewers if it was a tea and wine sampling. This is just, or a chocolate and wine sampling, excuse me. But what do I do for a chocolate and wine pack? Well, again, this is generally going to be for red wines, but if you're going to pair red wine and chocolate, the first thing I tell people is if you have a good chocolate and you have a good wine, then don't even worry about it. Just relax, enjoy both. It'll be just fine. So when you have your wine pairing pack, I often include a little bit fruitier chocolates. So one of the fun things I have in my wine pairing pack is I like this Maru 80% Tianjiang, right? Is a really fun one. Or again, going a little bit fruitier, you have a Chocolatl 70% from Peru is something that I include in my wine pairing pack. And then sometimes I throw in an odd one that you wouldn't think necessarily would go well, but due to lots of testing, like the Mirzam Star Anise Cinnamon bar is really fun actually with some red wine. And also the Siren Mayan Spice works really well with some red wine. Now, when you start to get into some of these spicier, some of these more flavorful ones, how I suggest, unlike the tea where you're going to have the chocolate in your mouth and you let the hot water melt the chocolate, I'd really like, with the wine and the stronger chocolate pairings, I encourage people to taste some of the wine, let it just start to fade, try some of the chocolate, let it just start to fade, and sort of play with that mixing. How can you mix those two flavors together? So those are some of the ones I put in my wine pack and say, try these, see what you think, and come back to me and I will answer. If you like something, then I will guide you to find something else that is sort of fun. One of my other popular packs is my coffee pack, because lots of people like coffee and chocolate. Now, coffee is going to be very strong. I tell people a fun way to do this is just like you do with the tea here, where you have your hot coffee, you let your chocolate melt, but you need to have a chocolate that can fight through that coffee, that can be really strong, which requires a little bit bigger bar. So I like the Blancs are at 85%. This is my biggest bar that I have in my shop at 125 grams. Really thick pieces. Super hot liquid won't dent them much at all. You can really get some good chocolatey flavor out of that. Or one of my best sellers every year is the Prowess Cuba, which is going to be a very smoky flavor in that one, which is really fun. Or the WM Ghana is something that I put in my coffee pack. So that would be one that I'd have in my coffee pack. So we have coffee pack that's pretty popular. We have the wine pack, which is super popular. And then you have the tea pack, which I push all the time, but isn't nearly quite as popular, unfortunately. But that's all right. People will come around eventually. But one of the fun things, and I sort of touched on it there with the wine pack, is that when you're pairing, when you're having good chocolate, you're not going to go wrong. If you have a good chocolate and you have a good tea, or you have a good wine, or you have whatever, it's all going to be good, right? It's going to be a fun pairing for whoever is doing it. So question, do I ever pair bonbons with tea? Actually, at home, sort of as a side, I make my own bonbons. And yes, you can absolutely pair bonbons with tea. And my favorite thing to do, one that I make at home, is I make a really fun tangerine ginger. And I also like jasmine. So those are two really fun flavors that you can get as tea that you could pair with your bonbons. But what I do is I actually infuse the cream with both of those teas and make the bonbons out of that. The jasmine is a very nice, even light floral flavor. You need to have a really neutral flavored chocolate if you're going to pair it with that. You don't want a really strong flavored chocolate with the jasmine. But the tangerine ginger, you can steep that and it can sort of take over whatever chocolate you infuse it with. And it just has that really nice bite to it of the little bit of orange flavor, a little bit of ginger. So those are two of my favorite teas to pair. I had a question there, no beer pack. Well, that gets me back to one of my original rules of eating chocolate is I really think it's important to have a warm mouth, not a cold mouth. Now, beer, of course, is often better cold, not better warm. But that also gets me to one of my other rules is that if you have good beer, if you have good chocolate, you're going to enjoy it regardless. I honestly think that you'll get more out of your chocolate if your mouth is warm, if it's not paired with a cold beverage. But if you do want to pair it with a cold beverage, I would stick with the milk chocolates. I'd stick with the more sugar added type chocolates. So you're going to be down 40, 50%, or ones that are really, really strongly flavored. And I don't have one here. We can grab one off the shelf back here. All right, this one might be kind of fun, right? If you want to pair this with some beer, even though it's a 72%, right? Some scorpion pepper here. It has enough bite to it that flavor will last and linger. And again, it's sort of like the coffee. It sort of has to fight through with the beer. So I honestly don't have specifically a beer tasting pack. I also have a world sampler pack. I have a best of pack. I have a milk chocolate pack. So there's some of the other packs that I'm doing. So I had a question of white chocolate and tea. I don't specifically have a white chocolate that I pair with tea because I really just don't like white chocolate, although I do have some really fun white chocolates. And again, we can try them. This was an experiment. I'd never tried the Harney and Sons cinnamon with tea before. It was really fun, right? That would be something maybe I would share with people as a fun thing. But white chocolates, well, I try and have white chocolates unlike anything anyone has ever tried before. So let me step away again. Let's grab this one. One of my favorite white chocolates right here. We have the Fruition Toasted White, 38%, right? Yeah, 38% toasted vanilla bean white. This one could be really, really fun with chocolate. I'm not going to open this one for you now, but go ahead and get one and try it yourself. This is a process that can be done with any chocolate virtually, any tea virtually. Another question, chocolate and whiskey. Yes, absolutely, chocolate and whiskey could be fun. I'm actually working with a local liquor store, and hopefully we are going to be starting to do some chocolate and whiskey or chocolate and wine there, or chocolate and other sorts of hard liquors, which can be sort of fun. Bourbon is going to be a fun one because so many things are aged in bourbon barrels. Maybe it'd be fun to pair some bourbon with some bourbon barrel aged ones. And that actually brings up one of the side things that I was going to talk about in my shop is you can sort of see all the stuff I have. I have this 125 bars. So I thought it'd be fun. So my least expensive chocolate that I have in my shop would be this little 85% Schulen's Mini. My least expensive full-size bar would be some of the Taza that I carry at $5. But that brings me to your pairing it with alcohol question, is what about pairing it with alcohol? Well, that brings me to my most expensive bar that I carry, right? And that would be my Toak Sauterne 3-year aged barrel. And I actually have a bottle of Sauterne in the back for some special tasting that I'm going to have here. Maybe once this all blows over as a celebration, we'll pair some of the French Sauterne with some of this Toak Sauterne aged chocolate and just see about some of those pairings. That might be kind of fun, huh? And so on my web shop, I'm still working. I'm still doing everything online. Caught me still a little bit by surprise. It accelerated my online work that I'm doing. So I have my online store organized, not necessarily this big long list of chocolates, but you can go there and you can see the collections that I've created. You can go into tasting rooms and see all the different teas that I've talked about today. I'll add a few more on there after some of the questions that I've had, some of the tea chocolates or some of the Wisconsin-made chocolates or some of the, eventually I'll have the coffee chocolates. I'll have some of those other sorts of chocolates on there. And so that's some of the, let's see, any Colombian bars? Yes, I actually do have some Colombian bars. I used to carry Cacao Hunters, and I still have some of their stuff around. And I just got a really new fun one from Crow and Moss in Michigan, one of their Colombian Arahuaco bars. And I've also had the Original Beans one. That Original Beans 82% bar was also in my wine pairing. I'm currently out of that bar from Original Beans, but I'm really excited to have the Crow and Moss 70% from Colombia. That's a really fun, it's just such a strong, fun, chocolatey bar. And that's one that I'll be profiling and I'll be adding to my webpage very soon. I'm not sure where it'll fit necessarily in the tasting order of things, but yeah, one of the things I try and do when I look for new bars, I try and see, is there a country that I don't have represented in what I carry here, and so I'm trying to expand and trying to hit, because when people come in, one of their biggest questions is, or one of the ways that they choose their chocolate, because again, there's so many to choose from, is by country of origin. So if they know someone from Colombia and I have a Colombian bar, they're much more likely to buy that one from Colombia. Or they've been to Hawaii, they go and get something from Hawaii. So a question of Panama. So I do not have any bars that are sourced from Panama. I do have some from El Salvador, I do have some from Belize, I do have from Nicaragua, I do have from Mexico, but currently right now I do not have a Panamanian sourced chocolate bar as we speak. Some of the other fun things that if we go through some of the other chocolates that I really like, that again, I really collect, I really love the high percentage chocolates. And what's fun when I give tastings of the high percentage chocolates is they all taste so completely different, right? So we have the Ritual 100%, which is going to be very different from the Noir Infini, or my favorite 100%, the Maru 100%, which is again going to be very different from the rest, or the Russell Valgi Trincheris 95%. And so I like to share these with everyone and say, wow, those are so different. And they're not at all what they would expect. Or the super rough sandpaper, but intentionally so bright and fruity, wicked dark, 95%. Or the very fun from Haiti, the Ascania, 90%, another really fun dark chocolate. And I'd pair all of these with tea. I love pairing the dark chocolates with tea. And yeah, so Quetzal Cacao, sure, let's absolutely talk about doing a Panamanian bar. And one of the things I realize here is I have absolutely no idea how I'm doing on time. So when I hit time, someone should just throw that in the comments, because I can't see a clock, I can't see my phone, I can't see my tablet, so I have no idea where I am in time. So if someone wants to tell me how I'm doing, what time it is, then that could be helpful. All right, and so again, I forgot I had my brew here. One of the fun things about loose leaf tea is that it's really hard, especially after the first or second steep, to overbrew. So even though this has been sitting, for a good 10 minutes as its third brew, color is going to be a little bit darker, but it's going to still be all right to drink. Right? It is 5:30, so I guess my time is up. Thank you. So I guess it's time for me to go. That was a quick half hour for me. I hope it was a quick half hour for you. I hope you had fun watching. And I have a lot of stuff on my website at yaharachocolate.com. And you can go check out there. You can stop in anytime you're in Stoughton, Wisconsin. I'm in Stoughton, Wisconsin, right off of the interstate as you're heading between Chicago and Minneapolis. So thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see some of your presentations here either today or tomorrow, or ones that I missed. I'll go back and see them when they are archived. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your chocolate. Stay home, stay safe, eat your chocolate. Bye.